So, welcome, and I'd like to give you a little bit a peek view into the new release of RaspiBlitz 1.8.0. But for the beginning, I want to give you a little bit a general overview what kind of the RaspiBlitz project is, of course, maybe for people that don't know. Just shortly, for my background, on Twitter, I'm Rotzoll. You can say Roots for short, so it's much easier. A little bit more coming from the Berlin area, connected there to the Bitcoin meetups. Doing together with Fulmo, organizing events like the Lightning Hack Days, or we did the Lightning Conference some years ago. And one project that keeps me kind of awake a lot of nights is the RaspiBlitz project. And the RaspiBlitz project is about running a Bitcoin and Lightning full node. Just maybe to clarify, a full node, because often you see people showing you those Raspberry Pis. It's got very popular to run one of those to run a Bitcoin full node. A Bitcoin or Lightning full node doesn't need to be a Raspberry Pi. So just for really, if you want to know, basically it depends for what purpose you run it. So of course, if you run it in an industrial kind of setup, sure, you will use a professional server setup with a good internet connection with very reliable hardware. If you come a little bit more from the personal area, like also a laptop is the classic Bitcoin full node, and basically, and this is what I recommend for a lot of people, if you really want to run a full node, just download Bitcoin Core on your laptop if you have the space available to download the complete blockchain, and then you also run a full node there. So a laptop and a Raspberry Pi are this kind of setups you normally choose for personal setups. Theoretically, you could use a smartphone also to run a full node. Basically, it's a little Linux or computer, so it could run. Basically, everything is in there. The storage capacity gets better with the SD cards. So maybe for the future, the smartphone could become interesting, especially if we look into kind of other countries where smartphones much more available hardware than laptops. This could be an interesting choice for the future. But right now, if you run a Lightning app, for example, on your smartphone, that's not a full node. That's basically just a client that connects to the rest of the network, does a little bit stuff, and then shuts down. It's more like a wallet, not a full node. So normally a Bitcoin full node itself doesn't need to be on 24/7, but if you then go into Lightning and you really want to run a Lightning routing node, your node needs to be on all the time, and this is why a little bit we tend to run something like a Raspberry Pi, because it's lower on power, so to have it all the time on, and your laptop normally you just shut down after a certain time. The RaspiBlitz is a do-it-yourself open source project, so these are the parts that you need to put it together. Basically all those parts you can order from Amazon or get it from your local computer store, and just build it together. So you have a Raspberry Pi here, you put some cooling on there. A lot of people ask about, do I need an active fan, like because it gets hot? Like, no, just keep it like with this cooling setup here, that's fine. A fan can break or can get noisy. You need an SD card where you put then the RaspiBlitz software on. You put it all together with the RaspiBlitz. You even put a LCD screen on there, so you get some basic information. You need a hard drive. We definitely recommend only SSDs. In the past, we used older hardware, older hard drives, but those break a lot, so don't use them. So get an SSD at 1 terabyte. A good power supply is important, because if you lose power, you can get into troubles. But with those kind of parts, we have them on our website. You can there are parts that we recommend to use, and then you build it. You chop it all, you put it together, and then it looks a little bit like this setup. A nice thing you can put on your desk, and the LCD gives you some basic information. What you have then on there running basically on the Pi, and we saw this with the Nix build here. Basically, you need some you package software together. So basically you have the Tor network client on there as a kind of base connection to the internet, so to say. And then you have the Bitcoin Core software installed, and then you have a Lightning implementation. And there are multiple Lightning implementations, and the RaspiBlitz you can now choose between L&D from Lightning Labs and Core Lightning from Blockstream. You can even run them both at the same time if you really want to do this. But basically it gives you the choice. We introduced with a recent update from a year ago roundabout. And what you then do, then you have a basic setup. You have your Bitcoin full node, your Bitcoin Core, you have your Lightning, and then you can do install additional apps on it that make it easier for you to manage your Lightning node. For example, LMBits, we just saw in the last session, is one of those apps you can install and then run the RaspiBlitz with. Or even you have BTC Pay server. There's a lot of a long list of apps you can already use and make it easier for you to do what you want to do. The RaspiBlitz is not the only full node project out there. There's it got quite popular to run a full node. That's really a good thing to see, that really people get into it, into the spirit to do it. And there's a lot of other projects that also offer you the possibility. Some of them are not complete open source, and you can make a long discussion how important this is for you. Basically, I think every way to start running a full node is a good way, so that's fine. But like projects like Umbrel are very popular because they have this fancy web UI, and this was always a little bit what was requested. Just one takeaway about the nodes. If it's not your node, it's not your rule. Not your rules you're running your Bitcoin on. So just as maybe this, I'm very lucky that this kind of code gets more and more into the conscious of people. Again, it's always fine. Start your journey. You will never be perfect, but just try. And if you at least get the idea to run a node, that's fine. For the RaspiBlitz, so the new, in the past, so I can talk about the past now, that's nice. In the past, you only had SSH to the terminal to log into. So maybe not everybody opened the terminal on your computer. It's this what we saw also, like when on the last session, when you really have this this very normally hacky looking screen where I need to really just I can just type. There are no pictures basically. It's very scary for a lot of people to go this way. So it was always very technical because the whole project came from the Lightning Hack days, and it was very targeted to developers, for people to give them a platform to experiment and to add their new apps and their new scripts and to build it out. But it then got quite popular with a lot of people that are not that technical, that may be technical interested, but not the kind of developers, so to say. But it's very useful to have the people use the project because it gives a lot of testing. And this is exactly what the app developers that adding the apps to the RaspiBlitz want. They want people testing their stuff. They want to get feedback from the community. And to get really good feedback, you need people to run it. And the RaspiBlitz wants to be a platform for this, for the community to try those things out. So we were very based with this terminal thing. So if I wanted to install it, I really had to open on my computer this terminal and SSH into the machine. Basically try to make it very simple for you. This little screen basically tells you exactly what you have to type in here. And then it basically guides you through, it takes you by the hand a little bit with all the kind of bash scripts we have in there, and then it puts you into such beautiful menus over here, like maybe some people know from the DOS times back in the 90s, good times. But it was always fine to have, and I think for most people it worked. But it was always a little bit of pain for people that are not used to this and scared people to use the RaspiBlitz. So the idea was then we need a web UI. So web UI, you know, that you can control from your web browser your RaspiBlitz. And this was a bigger mission because, again, as I was telling you, there's all those crazy cool stuff. You can set up your node with Docker and make it cloud ready, whatever. Like, and we just said, like, you know, we just use all those bash scripts. That's nice. So bash script is just like very simply telling the Linux system what to do. You just put Linux commands into a file, and then it configures it. You do the configuration, you change the system and all the stuff. So that was nice. But because we came also from the RaspiBolt kind of a project, so this was like really, how do you set up the node yourself on the Linux terminal? And then we started to mix it in with a little bit some Python scripts. So we already a little bit started to do a little bit more like programming languages there. But always the idea was to keep it low on external dependencies, because you're running a node there, you're running hardware there, there's money on there. And you want to have the attack surface very low, and your more dependencies, this is a little bit what Ben was talking about, the more dependencies you add, the bigger the attack surface gets. So with Bash it was, and Python it was like quite small what you were adding, at least for the basics to run a RaspiBlitz. Of course, additional apps always already added their own kind of web UI. So again, LNBits is already in the browser. So once you have installed the RaspiBlitz, you could basically do a lot of stuff already with the web UI. But the setup and then the basic management of the node, there was a web UI missing. But everybody asked for that, so we were going for this. And it was a longer journey. It took us about, I think, almost a year basically. But also don't worry, if you like the SSH kind of thing and you like to be very close to the system and be hands-on. It's really like with your car, right? If you have your car, you want to open the thing and you want to get into the engine and be able to change everything. This will stay in RaspiBlitz always there, and you will always have all the crazy experimental features that people are adding. So don't worry, the SSH will stay with RaspiBlitz, but of course we wanted to have this web UI. And to have this web UI, we basically kept the system as it is, and then we're adding a section, a backend API to it. And of course, there's so much work to do. I was very glad that Fusion 44 kind of started to say, okay, let's build this REST API on top of the RaspiBlitz system with Python and Fast API. And this basically creates a REST API to control the Raspberry Pi, and there's also a lot of WebSocket communication possible, or server-side events basically. And then when you have this backend, of course, then you need the web UI, really the graphical interface that people then use in the browser. And for this project, kind of to go, we chose React.js with Tailwinds. And this is Christoph Stenglein was putting his time into it. I'm so very thankful for all the time. All those people were helping out so that we can get there. And the good thing is, because it's modular, now with the backend API, there could also be other projects just using the API now to maybe control the Raspberry Pi over other interfaces. For example, a new touch UI for the LCD screen in the future will also utilize these possibilities. Let's take a look. So this is where we're going. This is the new kind of admin dashboard that we have. It's very, very basic, and the idea is really to have it very reduced in the beginning, just have the very needed things there, and then we can extend step by step what we still need. And this is where we also need the feedback from the community. What are the next kind of features that you are missing and you want to have there? So, but basically what you see, you have it very simple. You have a home screen, you have an app screen, and you have a settings section. And we choose dark mode. I hope everybody likes this and agrees with us. I think it firstly, for my eyes, it's very, very nice to have. You see the section over here just gives you basic information. What is my balance in general? What is my on-chain balance? What is my lightning balance? Then I have the classic kind of send and receive possibilities, open channel, list channels. We don't want to replace something like RTL. RTL is a very advanced web UI that you can use to manage your node or Thunderhub. We just want, the idea is to have the basic actions available that you need to learn about how running a node. So the RaspiBlitz should provide you, should give you this journey, like to learn how to run a node. So the basic stuff should be there. After I installed and synced the blockchain, I want to open a channel, then I want to send and receive funds, and then want to see a little bit what I have. And then I have also here the transaction history that I can see and get a quick insight what is happening on my node. Of course, it's very important what is my hardware is doing, what's the temperature, what's the CPU load, so how busy is the system, is there something running, blocking everything, so you can very quickly see information here. How is my disk space doing? How is my my RAM, if I'm still good on my memory there. And some connection informations. In the future, this will extend a little bit easier so that it also gets easier to connect your mobile wallets, for example, to your node. Then we have the apps section, which is kind of very basic, what you also, I think, know from other web UIs from node projects, is the, so basically you have this kind of app store-like idea. So you see all those little apps. If you click on info, you get a more detailed info on it, and you then click on install. And at the moment, the install process is really often a quite long process, because then we, in the background, we kind of trigger the bash script that is doing the install, and then it comes back after time and tells you it's installed or not. But basically, you have the App Store now here. And again, this is not everything that is because I think we have over 20 special scripts and apps on the RaspiBlitz that you can use when you are in the SSH kind of world, in the terminal world. The idea is now to put more and more just the established apps that are kind of ready for a little bit more beginners or starters to really have them available here. And the idea is really to have in the SSH kind of section more really the experimental, very experimental scripts. So if you're a developer and have an idea, you still can put it very easily into the RaspiBlitz, have it available for in the SSH menus. But once it gets kind of more developed and then tested out, it can then come to the kind of web UI world. Yeah, the settings is not much at the moment, but it's basically basic stuff should be there. You can set your language, you can do the set your passwords, reboot, shut down. That's kind of basic, but to be kind of improved in future versions. Because we were seeing the, oh no, let's script this. The of course, what you just saw was the web admin kind of section. The whole more other journey you are on is kind of the whole setup of the system, and it all starts in the beginning. You remember we had all those. This was the original way how you do it. You SSH in and set it up. But now you have the little when you just put everything together. You start the RaspiBlitz software. On the LCD screen, it will now tell you like, oh, you can go to the browser or you can go to the terminal and set it up if your way, how you want it. What you can see is this is an HTTP. It's not HTTPS. So the communication is not secured at the moment. It's still a little bit what we're still searching for a good solution here. Maybe input is very, very much welcome because it's not hypercritical, because what you do is you have you run this hardware in your local network, and there's your laptop. And normally in your local network, it's just in your home. Normally it should be safe. There should be no evil people there, but it's still something you're in a privileged situation, right? You have your home, you have your local network. Some people that maybe don't have this, they're sharing a big Wi-Fi maybe with a lot of other people. So there could be really people you don't trust in this network. So setting up a node this way is maybe not the best. For those kind of situations, I still kind of recommend to do the SSH, but because this at least is an encrypted communication, the go in with the web browser is at the moment recommended for GUD if you really know you are in your personal home and it's just your network that you're using. And how to add there, like HTTPS, there are some ideas, but if you have some, please come to me and let's talk about it. Also from other projects, you also maybe know this kind of, I just put something like .local in the browser. But that's always nice because then I don't need this IP address here and then put this into the browser. But OpenOMS kind of recommended not to do this. We were a little bit split there. I was a little bit like, it's for the UX, come on, people want this. And he was saying, no, if you boot up the system, it will kind of tell everybody in the local network, I'm RaspiBlitz. Hey, come on, I'm a fresh RaspiBlitz. So, and that's maybe not the best idea. Again, if it's not your home, you may be in a wider network where you're sharing your connection and you don't want to advertise there. It's still a discussion going on. So far we decided to not offer it, but it's also a discussion you can join if you like. The good thing is, and this is this is something that really separates, I haven't seen this in other kind of systems, is really, we build it multi-language from the beginning. So you can switch your language, especially though during the setup. So you switch on the RaspiBlitz, you go into the web UI, and then you can really select your language. And we used a web blade for this. So this is kind of a framework or a platform where you can kind of even cooperate with people that are not programmers. So you really can, if you want to help out and translate the RaspiBlitz into a special language or into your local language, you can just join there and you will find on WebBlade, you can make an account and you can go there, start a new language or help on an existing language. So you see we have English, of course, is the default. German is 50% already kind of done. French seems to be kind of very popular. Somebody is very much working on a French translation. But also we have Italy, Italian, Niederländisch, Norwegisch, Portugiesisch, Spanish, Ungarisch. Those are the Hungarian. Those are the kind of languages we have right now. And I think again the node should be a starting node for people, and to have it in your local language is, I think, for a lot of people very helpful to start in. So I think, I hope this is a very nice feature, very kind of proud on that we did this decision, and it's very open for you, for everybody that's not a programmer to join here and to help out to make the experience better for new beginners. And there's also, now that we are having a web UI, and I don't see this much in other node projects, so I think the RaspiBlitz is very welcoming to this kind of idea, is to put more information here to teach and explain about running a node and all the little details. So if you're a content producer or somebody really putting good tutorials together, again, doesn't need to be a programmer, just somebody that understands the technology and wants to help other people to also understand it, you're free. Let's come together and see what we can add into a web UI on kind of media for helping people to understand it. This could be podcasts, maybe with backgrounds information, or some YouTube kind style videos. We have to see where we host it, how we link it. But basically, there's no multimedia content possible to include into this web UI. So let's start to turn beginners into pro users here, and while they're having a hands-on experience. So that's at least one wish for me for the future here. But let's talk about OpenOMS, because again, the kind of main people maintaining the RaspiBlitz project is me and OpenOMS. And OpenOMS posted recently some tweets. I just wanted to kind of give it for wider discussion. We can maybe talk about a beer about this if you're interested in one of those topics. But he sees kind of multiple things I at least wanted to mention. How I'm on time, just to see that I can a little bit. Okay, so this should be fine. So basically, there is one thing is the laptop thing. Again, I showed you in the beginning. We are it's even called RaspiBlitz, so it's the Raspberry Pi is basically in the name. But more and more, we're coming to the conclusion that it makes sense to also concentrate on the laptop again. to use a laptop as a hardware setup for running a node, especially if you look into countries. I mean, we saw it in El Salvador or other countries picking up the Bitcoin thing. So the Raspberry Pis are very hard to get. I mean, even here in Germany or in Europe, you really have hard times getting a Raspberry Pi at the moment. But even in other countries, it's still expensive. But what you have is a lot of secondary hardware, that old hardware that's maybe from 10 years ago or whatever, that gets very cheap distributed or even sent into other countries to get rid of the electro trash. So and basically we should concentrate a little bit more on this older hardware. How can we reuse it? And because the good thing is there is a battery in there normally. So if you have a power cutout, that's very normal in some situations. So you power cutouts, we are very lucky. I have maybe power cutouts once a year or something. In other countries it's regularly. So here's a battery in there. So if there's a power outage, you already have the backup system there, maybe the system can shut down cleanly, you don't lose data and stuff. So this is very, very good. And it's available again. This is stuff that you can get and build together. So running the RaspiBlitz project also on standard laptop hardware is one topic. OpenOMS is very interested in and is doing a lot of things. Also, the new version will have a tutorial to helping you on setting it up on the laptop. And if anybody is interested in this kind of direction, very much welcome to improve the experience here. Other things OpenOMS likes to discuss, or at least put on the RaspiBlitz, or at least have as interested to put it on the RaspiBlitz, let's say it this way. It's the peer swap project, to have really the possibility to not depend on services like a little bit more centralized services like Loop and things like that. So a peer swap, very interesting. Fedimint, definitely something very interesting. Maybe we hear later in the panel discussion we can talk a little bit maybe about that, because I think it just touches also the idea of future of Lightning and onboarding people kind of very cheaply. So the Fedimint federated eCache system here to have in there. Dual funded channels as a part of the protocol. That's maybe not a RaspiBlitz topic, but for OpenOMS in general. So those kind of topics I think are very also very interested to see in the future for RaspiBlitz, and again, it's a community project. Anybody who has who likes to cooperate on this or adds this here, let's talk and have a beer afterwards.